All right. Well, good morning, everyone. And you're going to have to forgive me if I throw out a happy Sabbath every once in a while. It's just baked in at this point. I don't know what else to tell you about that. I'm going to put this slide up and leave it here for a bit, and I'll put up at the again later. You can go to a web address, and I'll put this here for the audio as well. Shane.digitalworld.kids is a website. On your phone, and you'll find a download link for my contact card, as well as a link to a few other things. I'll step aside over here for those who can catch all sides of it. And I will have, throughout the presentation, some other resources, but this is a good place to start. You're welcome to reach out to me anytime if you want to send me an email or a text message about any of the content that I'll be sharing with you. And if it's something that I can help you with, I'll be glad to respond to you and be as helpful as possible. I presently serve as the senior pastor for the Eastwood Seventh-day Adventist Church in Columbus, Ohio. And as Pastor Bates mentioned, I previously served as the associate director for creative professional services at the North American Division. So we worked on a lot of the graphic design, web, social media, and several other miscellaneous projects for ministries at the North American Division. And then before that, as a local conference communication director and multi-church district pastor in the Gulf States Conference. So I do have a background in graphic design, as well as a variety of different art and technology skills, including photography, videography, AV, computers, consumer electronics. I like it all, and so I try to stay on top of it as much as possible. I may not be the best or have the most expertise, but it's interesting to me, so I try to stay on it. I also like to call myself a serial hobbyist. We have any hobbyists out there? You got at least one hobby? More than one hobby? Come on now, 3 hobbies? All right. You're my people. I'm glad that you're here. I like strategic board games. We like to play board games as a family. GMRS radio. Not quite into like the big guy stuff, but to be able to do things in a nicer way when we're going camping with the family. Remote control cars, and I could go on and on, but I'm not here to talk about all my hobbies today. Some I will share later that I believe are helpful for families. But what I have found in hobbies is that it's a great way to make meaningful connections with people. And you're able to, even as I was just going for a walk in my neighborhood, I saw somebody outside with an RC car, and I was able to ask just a quick question to him about the car that was able to spark an additional conversation. So rather than just saying hello to my neighbor, I was able to talk with him for like 2 or 3 minutes and make a more substantial introduction because of that. So I think in that way, these types of common interests can really help us strengthen relationships with people. I use technology all the time, and I have since I was little. And I've attended quite a few seminars on a wide range of topics, and so my hope is that in this week's seminar that I'll be able to do a few things that I've learned from others that hopefully will be helpful to you. For starters, at the end of each of the seminar presentations, I'll put another QR code and a link there, and when you follow that, you'll be taken to a place that has the slides in a PDF. I'll also have my presentation notes. When I write presentations, I usually write them as a manuscript. That's just how I do it. So you can see the whole manuscript of everything that I'm presenting, as well as links to any of the resources that I may have mentioned during the presentation. And I'll update those if something comes to mind after the presentation is done. Now, I'm not saying that to say don't take notes or don't take pictures of the screen. Okay, if that's what you like to do, I'm not going to stop you. All right, I won't even make fun of you. But you more than welcome to take a picture of that. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I put this one up there. So at the end of the seminar, we will have a link where you can go to each session notes and links and other resources that pertain to it. Some of the links, I'll just tell you right now, may be affiliate links. And what I mean by that is if there's a particular product that I might recommend that might be helpful to your family, it may take you to Amazon. And if you follow that and you do decide to make a purchase, I'll make a very small sliver of whatever that purchase is. If you don't like to do the referral thing, that's okay. You can just do your own Google search for that product and purchase it yourself, and I won't even be mad at you about that. But if you do, it will help to fund another board game purchase for our family, and that would be greatly appreciated. The other thing I want to talk about is quickly is just notes. If you want to take notes, that is also really helpful. In fact, there's plenty of research to show that handwriting notes really helps us to understand the content that we're trying to ingest. So if you are a handwriting note-taking person, please continue to do so, even though I've got all these other resources on the back end, okay? I am married, and I have 3 children. My wife, Amy, is here with us this morning with our youngest, our 3-year-old. They'll depart partway through this morning seminar probably to get to her class. My others are already at their respective classes. And so here's the whole family, 3 kids. We've got a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and this 3-year-old. And, I want to tell you that our family doesn't have it all figured out. If you ever find a family that does have it all figured out, please let me know. Love to talk to them. But we are trying, and we want to do what's best for our family, and so we aim to learn from our mistakes and to try to provide opportunities for growth for every one of our family members. And hopefully we can do that for you all this week, is to maybe provide some tips and some things that we have found to be helpful. And there'll be opportunities as well that I'll be aiming to get some feedback from each of you. And hopefully you can share with us things that have been beneficial to your family. We can learn and grow together. While I was not born with a smartphone in my hand, like some of our current generation has, I did obtain one, like most Americans, in 2010, after having used basic flip phone and feature phones since 2003. So in 2010, I can remember exactly, and maybe this is because I'm a little bit nerdy, but exactly which phone it was, the make, the model, and all of the things that it did, which was not very well. It crashed a lot. It wasn't awesome. But 2010, as it turns out, is actually a pretty critical year for many changes to human behavior that we'll be exploring throughout this week. And my family, like myself and my parents, my siblings, we were not Seventh-day Adventists. In fact, growing up, we were in the Mennonite church until I was about 10 years old. So I had a pretty conservative upbringing through most of my younger years. But we left the Mennonite church, which has some close ties to the Amish religion, for those who may not be familiar. We left the Mennonite church for a contemporary non-denominational church. So it was like a pretty big leap from one to the other. And it wouldn't be till several years later before I was formally introduced to the Seventh-day Adventist church and joined. But the week that my family left the Mennonite church, my dad ordered sorry, I went too far back here. My dad ordered a satellite dish to be installed. So the very week that we left. And we bought a Nintendo Entertainment System at a garage sale. The first family computer that we had was an MS-DOS machine. Anybody use any of those in the past? Okay, we got a few brave souls here. And we didn't replace that until Windows 98 was a thing. And while we had that DOS machine, we acquired a modem and we used America Online to start browsing the web with dial-up internet access, and continued to use that for years. I remember going through, yeah. I was about 10. No, it's okay. Yeah, no, I was about 10 years old. Something around there, yeah. No, can't believe it. I remember going through that dial-up internet process, right? Can you still hear those sounds in your ears, for those of you? Oh, yeah, it was a fun time. And then when it did get connected, I don't know if any of you were this savvy, but you could go down and look and see what the connection speed was. in the bottom corner there. And if it wasn't that higher speed, it might be worth it to disconnect and try to connect again. Try to hit that higher speed. And we're talking about breakneck speed, right, with dial-up. So I guess I was always interested in computers and learning what they could do and trying new things. And with our Windows 98 machine, I attempted to change the graphics card because I wanted to have some better performance so I could play more graphically demanding games. And one of my personal favorites was, of course, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2000. Yes, I was that type of kid. All right. The game of choice was a flight simulator. So I remained interested in computers, video games, television all through my adolescence. Because we were coming from a family that had very little exposure to entertainment in that way, naturally there was not a whole lot of good practice in how to set boundaries and learning what things were okay and not okay. It was kind of hit and miss. But if I'm being honest, and I look back and I think about what my parents did, they did pretty good, given what their background was and the information that they had available to them. Until we got that satellite dish, all of our TV watching was reserved for VHS tapes. So even while we were in the Mennonite church, we had a television, but it was only a VCR. That was the only content that was able to come into our home was through a VHS tape. And we had this really awesome guy actually in our very small town in country, side Ohio, who ran a Christian VHS rental service out of a shed in his yard. And basically, he just put a sign out in front of his yard, and he called it No Compromise. And you could go in kind of at your own leisure and borrow these pre-approved or from mostly Christian source studios, these VHS tapes. And you just write your name, which tape you took, and you're able to take it and bring it back home and go back and forth. It's actually kind of an interesting idea while I was writing this seminar and thinking about having that happen. It's actually a pretty good idea to do today. People do those things like those sidewalk pantries, and there's even a guy in our neighborhood who has this Hot Wheels exchange thing out in his front yard where you can bring a Hot Wheel, take a Hot Wheel, which is also very fun. But, maybe this would be an idea for some one of us to do, to take some good, wholesome content for families and make it available in our neighborhoods as a free service. Yeah. It's not for everybody, only as you feel led to do so. So now, even though that place existed, it wasn't the only place that we went to get VHS tapes, right? Because there was a convenience store in the same town that, they had a small amount of groceries, but what they did is you could pay to rent VHS tapes there. And it was not filtered. It was the current releases of VHS tapes, and that's what we went there for. You could buy penny candy and then also rent some VHS tapes. And, of course, we went to our local library in a larger town that's about 30 minutes away, and they had all those things as well, along with some educational videos, nature things, and our family did that too. So there were some interesting concessions then that were made in my family as we considered the type of content that we would be viewing, either together as a family or individually. Because, we'd go to the library and my brother would want something on horses or something, right? So we'd get that. And my sister would want something on a different topic. But I wanted to borrow Power Rangers VHS tapes. And I wasn't supposed to watch Power Rangers because of the violence and the monsters. But I specifically remember my mom, after I was able to successfully sneak a Power Rangers VHS tape into the library stack, we borrowed it, got it home, and I was able to pop it into the player. I'm not really sure what the whole thought process was there, honestly, that she was going to hear it or something. I don't remember. But she was like, "Can't you see how evil this is? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this in our house." Which, I'm all about that for the values and maintaining that and sticking up for it. That's good. However, we were able to watch Walker, Texas Ranger on Saturday night television. So he was A-okay. Maybe my mom just really liked it. I think it was more my dad that really liked it, actually. And so, these things happen. I also had, parents of friends who, when they were looking at content and they were considering whether it would be something that they should watch or not, they would look at the rating and see, it's PG-13. What's it rated PG-13 for? Oh, like just violence and bad language? Well, as long as there's no nudity, then that's okay, right? Those were the values that they had established as being acceptable in their particular family. So this is continuing today, that there may be some differences between the values that you place and the things that you want to have in your family compared to maybe other family members, maybe your siblings, and probably even people at your own church. What type of content are they wanting to have in their family? What are the ways that they're going to use technology compared to the way that you're going to decide to use technology for yourself and for your kids? And so part of what I want to present to you today is to help each one of us be better set up to manage this, to understand that there are going to be differences, and how do we go about that? Excuse me. As my siblings and I have grown up, my siblings each have their own children. They've all grown up, and they've all taken a slightly different approach to how they're going to raise their kids. Do they have their own phones or tablets? Are they connected to the internet? Have they applied any filters? Are they specifically selecting content for their children? Or can kids choose themselves? Are they playing games online? And if they are, is like live chat enabled? And depending on some of those answers, if our kids have different boundaries, what are we going to do when they do those things in front of them, right? And we also know, because we're primarily talking about technology, that various forms of content can still come into our lives in other ways other than screens, right? Books are still real. Advertisements that you just see in the marketplace still happen. And so we need to be considering those things as well. Yet also understanding not every book is good, not every book is bad, right? Not every piece of content that comes in necessarily has to get categorized. And the reality of this is because there are these differences, and you may have differences between you and even maybe your fellow church members, you really have to be invested in learning about all of these things as much as possible. We're going to look to the Bible to help us set standards for our own families, and along with how technology can be used to help or hurt the journey towards setting up those goals. More than anything, my prayer is to help inspire you, parents, to be just thoroughly invested in the children that God has given us to take care of, to really be invested in it. In the last decade or so, there's been a pretty major shift in taking extra care and concern for the physical safety of children, like safe playgrounds and that type of thing. Just reducing time outside at all is what most of that has actually resulted in. And we've unfortunately left the door to internet-connected devices rather wide open. We've taken a lot of safety measures for like physical in-person safety, and yet internet safety or device safety has not got the attention that it needs. And in fact, it's probably been, it really has been more dangerous than any like playground scrape would ever pose. So as we proceed through the seminar today, even I'd like to lay out the kind of the game plan for this whole week, and so you have an idea of what will be happening in each of the sessions and what we will attempt to cover. So today, laying the foundation to better understand why right now is the best time for investing in learning about technology and families, setting standards, goals. Tomorrow will be about balance and understanding that technology has in a significant way really replaced free play, time outdoors, and how we can better manage to receive the benefits of both. All right, so that'll be the emphasis for tomorrow. And then Wednesday for day 3 is boundaries, where we're going to get into details of the available options for things like internet filtering, both on individual devices, for all the devices in your home that may be connected to the Wi-Fi, things that you can use to monitor that, as well as setting limits and providing some device-specific help in achieving whatever your family goals may be. So that's what we'll be talking about Wednesday, is a lot more of the technical component of this whole matter. For Thursday, session 4, we're going to be talking about social media, gaming, and entertainment choices. And we've been able to find some really great resources that exist to help in all of these areas, to kind of review the content ahead of time, so you can make the best choices for your family. And then finally, Friday, we're going to conclude, hopefully just as Jesus did when he was here on earth, and that is to finish with hope. And that is to focus on raising wise, resilient, and faithful kids for the future, no matter how crazy our world is going to be. All right. We'll also spend some time on Friday in prayer, specifically for kids and grandkids. I firmly believe that prayer is incredibly powerful, and that is something that we ought to be doing far more frequently than we do, and specifically for our children and grandchildren and just the family unit as a whole throughout our church and throughout the world. So we're really going to make a big emphasis on that. So continuing for today's topic then on foundations. I've talked about technology changes in my childhood, right? Things that didn't exist before, but then became a much bigger reality, even like dial-up internet. But hopefully that we can understand as we go through this that every generation has faced some cultural changes, right? It's just that the past couple of generations' challenge is more immersive and it's much more portable, right? It's become much easier to take all of these big things and keep them on our person, right? We're not lugging around a giant computer, or we're not carting around like a whole, something else to have access to this. Now it's readily available, and it can be very secretive, and it's much easier to hide, to consume it. Within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we have hesitantly yet consistently used the latest technology for good. If you want to go back, you can look at any of what has taken place, even for things like radio or television, and the pioneers of these media ministries within the Adventist Church. When originally they brought them to the forefront, the church is like, heresy, absolutely not. We can't use radio. That's terrible. Radio is filled with all wrong things only. And yet, where do we stand with Adventist radio today? Global impact, truly doing tremendous good for the gospel. And the same goes for television as well. I don't think that the internet should be any different than that. The internet and current technology, we should be there as a church with a mission mind to be a light in a dark place. And I believe that we can accomplish that. Even though, like many of these other technologies, there are dangers that exist, I believe that we can mitigate those dangers with some appropriate practice, and if we have the mindset of using it for something positive. Use them as tools for good, rather than being shaped or controlled by them. Have you ever noticed that fish don't recognize water because they've never lived outside of it, right? They exist in it, right? I'm sure that can they even appreciate it, really? Not if they've ever been without, right? Children today don't experience technology as a tool because it's simply just the atmosphere of our life now. Like, everybody has one. It's just there. It's always existed for them. And based on what they see exemplified, it's almost like another appendage for a lot of people, right? And for some, the idea is, when will I get one too? Right? When will this thing grow out of my person and onto my hand? Or whatever the future may hold, into my glasses or into my ears or other type of wearables. Yet in an interesting case and twist, there's also quite a few who have seen what happens with this type of integration with technology, and they're saying, how can I avoid it? Like, I don't want this in my life. But it's almost unavoidable. It has to happen. So how can we do this? How old were you when you got your first cell phone? Anybody want to volunteer that? How old you were when you got your first cell phone? Yes, sir, in the back. 18 years old, first cell phone. All right, that's pretty good. Anybody else? 22 when you got your first cell phone. That's good. Okay, around 18 years old, and it was a bag phone. Okay, bag phone. Yep, very back. How old were you? 13 years old, you got your first cell phone. You're shaking your head. You think it was a bad idea? It was a bad idea. Okay, so you lived it, and you're not a fan. All right. 24 years old, and you got your first cell phone. Okay. So these are our first cell phones. Some of them were bag phones. Some of them were very simple. They only made voice calls, right? And yet others were these more advanced smartphones, yeah. You were 59 when you got your first cell phone. Congratulations. Thank you. I don't have any prizes to give out. I'm sorry. So we know that that the way that we, the age that we get phones or the types of things that we're exposed to by them and what they do, right? If it's just a voice, device and that's all that it can do, it had a much different purpose then, and we'll get into some of that as well, that the types of things we used these phones for at the time that we received them. Throughout this seminar, I'm going to be referring to Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation. Have any of you read this book? We've got one. I would highly recommend each of you to read this book. It will be in those resource notes that I will present at the end of the presentation, a link to go to his website to find it. It's really a fantastic study on the topic of children and technology. He's made, when you buy the book or you buy the audio book, he's made a lot of the resources and the study results available to share. And so that's why I'm doing that today. I'll share a few of the study results publicly. And I will give this, though, also, sometimes when folks get recommendations for books that are not by Seventh-day Adventist authors or maybe even necessarily a Christian author, I'll give you just a bit of a heads up so you're not surprised when you may see or read it. And that is that I agree with a lot of Haidt's conclusions. There's also some that I don't. He often refers to evolutionary theory when he's coming to some of his developmental conclusions, where honestly, as a creationist, I think it really makes a lot more sense to utilize creation as a means by which to come to the results that he has found. He may believe that he's discovering some of these like nuts and bolts of human development, but really it's kind of been there all along because that's what God put in us. So despite his evolutionary suggestions, I would recommend the book to you anyways, and you can read it and just apply your own belief and understanding of who God is and what he's done for us. Because the results of the studies that have taken place, I believe, are still incredibly helpful and point to the types of things that we need to understand. Among the conclusions he's come to, based on numerous studies, is the large leap that has been made from play-based childhood to what he calls phone-based childhood. Okay? So previous generations, they spent far more time outdoors with neighborhood kids, unsupervised, and inventing play. Okay? Some of you, I can see the childhood in your eyes. You're remembering being outside and doing fun things, maybe even dangerous things. Whereas today's kids often spend more time indoors, online, in a curated environment, and are being algorithmically entertained. Okay? Essentially, rather than coming up with entertaining ideas of our own, we're being spoon-fed ideas that are the most likely to engage our attention. And this isn't to say that everything was perfect back then and everything is horrible now. Okay? We need to be really careful about trying, maybe coming to that mentality to say, you know what, everything was better when I was a kid. Everything wasn't better when you were a kid. All right? Let's be real about that. We think about, whatever era has been your preference. For me, it would have been like 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Not everything was perfect then. There are better things today. But there are certain aspects of the types of things that we did that were actually more helpful to us. Every generation gains some things and loses some things, and there's wisdom in recognizing what those are and honestly doing that. So what did the studies show of a world that is phone first? Well, between 2010 and 2015, the social lives of American teens